So, guys, of course, my name is Tara Colston, as you have seen on the millions of flyers that Tanya and I have been circulating around. I am a financial advisor based in Philadelphia, and I am excited to team up with Tanya for the first time of what I am crossing my fingers as many. But we just had an instant charismatic connection and two women in finance, specifically two Black women in finance. And we are just excited to try to just share our wealth of knowledge and expertise and years of experience with you guys because we need to increase the Black wealth. Bottom line, we're not where we should be, and we have to hit the ground running. And this new administration, which has us all kind of just like, ugh, what does the future hold? Is actually still a good time to capitalize and build wealth and change the trajectory of our families and our legacies. And we're going to talk about how you do that today. So I'm excited to share that with you. I'll jump right into just a quick little more about myself and bio in a minute. But I just want to get the energy in the room. Everybody drop in the chat. How are you feeling today? Are we feeling great? Are we excited? Are we nervous? Are we wondering what are we going to learn today? So tell me how you're feeling in the chat and tell me one thing you're looking to learn today. Yes, all right. Excited, fantabulous. Oh, I might need to write that one down. Fantabulous. Excited and sleepy. I definitely understand. Awesome. Looking to learn about more tools to add to the portfolio. Awesome. What else are we looking to learn today? Great. Some financial strategies. Amazing. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get my fancy little slide ready for us, guys. We're going to jump right in. All right. So I have this little saying that I like to use anytime I do any type of classes. This is the time to go grab your water, but get your pen and your paper. Get those notepads because I have the slogan that note takers are money makers. So if you're a money maker, type ready. If you got your pen and your pencil or your notepad or your iPad, I know some of us are tech savvy. Type ready in the chat if you are ready to go. Awesome. All right, so bear with me, guys. I'm sharing my slide. Tanya is the tech savvy one. And I am the one that is a work in progress, but we are learning. All right, got our slideshow. All right, everybody drop a 1 in the chat if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Yep, I think we're getting there.
Okay, it looks like it's opening now.
All right, so let's see, did we get there? There we go. All right, drop a 1 in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, perfect. All right. All right, great, great, great. Everyone looks like they can see now. All right, so just a little bit about me. I am a North Philadelphia native, proud. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm sorry, I have to make that confession. However, I'm a Sixers fan and a Phillies fan. I like every other team except the Eagles. So please don't exit off of the Zoom because of that little tidbit. But I am proud, born and raised in Philadelphia. I got into the financial industry in 2015 as a business banker. I've worked for financial institutions such as Citizens Bank, Bank of America. I became a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch, then transferred over into my own book of business with Northwestern Mutual, and now I am proud independent with my own company, Colston Williams Financial Group. So I have been in this business for about a decade now, just building and planning and growing businesses and families and helping them to understand what financial literacy is, and then connecting the dots as to how that pertains to you and your specific goals and what you're looking to do with your family. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for you today. All right. So really quickly, even though I just kind of cheated and showed it, when you think about different types of traditional investments, what are some things that come to mind? Drop in the chat. When you think about just investing, what are some traditional investments when we think about investing? 401k, absolutely. Retirement, mutual funds, stocks, absolutely. Stocks and bonds, yes. Stocks, bonds, CDs, awesome. Futures, yes, one of my favorite. Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of those. So we're going to do a high level overview, just talking about those different things that you guys just hit the head on the nail. And we're going to start with talking about insurance, which is the fancy word for that is risk management. You want to make sure that you cover all your bases when you're talking about protecting your wealth, protecting your legacy with your families. Then we're going to talk about that one that we all have to talk about that's usually top of mind, which is retirement, because all of the work that we're doing in the workforce, whether it be in entrepreneurship or whether it be in a 9 to 5, the goal is to make sure that we're set up for retirement. Then we're going to touch a little bit on education planning. That's something depending on where you are in your life cycles, whether you are currently raising a family or if you have kids in college. This is something that we'll touch a little bit on today. Also, we're going to talk about stocks and the different types of investing in equities. Then we're going to talk about wealth transfer. After we've built all of this wealth, after we've built the portfolio, we planned for retirement, we did some education planning, we have all covered all our bases with risk management. Then we're going to talk about what it looks like to plan our estate, and then how are we going to transfer all of that to our heirs? Where's it going to go? And what does it look like to get those ducks in a row to get that transferred over? All right, so before we go to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about risk management. What comes to mind when you think about risk management? Drop in the chat. There's no wrong answers today. Being cool with what you have to lose. Yes. Definitely want to make sure that you're always not risking more than you're comfortable with. How to protect yourself from loss and maximize gains. Exactly. That is absolutely what risk management is. So with risk management, that's going to cover all of the different foundational building blocks, is the insurances. That's what risk management. So now you can go and talk at the barbecue and with around the water cooler, and you can talk about risk management. Really, you're just talking about the different types of insurances to protect you and your family. So that's life insurance. And we know that there are different types of life insurance. We have term life insurance, we have whole life insurance, which is permanent insurance. And then we have the fancier ones where it starts to tie in a little bit to the stock market. So we have the traditional insurance that protects us in the event of our demise. And term insurance is exactly what it sounds like. It's for a set term, usually 10, 20, 30 years, usually in 10-year intervals. And it protects you and your family, protects you and will provide money to your family in the event of your demise. And it is only a death benefit. So there are no living benefits usually with a term policy. There are different little bells and whistles depending on what your circumstance are that you can then talk about with your agent, and they can add those different riders and bells and whistles on to give you some living benefits. But term policy is exactly as it sounds. You get coverage for a certain term. In the event of your demise within that term, your family will get a payout designated that you pick when you set up the policy. And then there's permanent insurance. Permanent insurance protects you for your entire life. So that does not expire. And with permanent insurance, there's usually living benefits. So whole life insurance specifically will cover you while you're alive because it has interest built into it. So that's going to accumulate as you pay those premiums. There's interest going to build on a portion of those premiums. So you're not paying monies in vain like the term policy doesn't benefit you unless you leave out of here. With a whole life, that's something that you can strategically use for yourself while you're alive. And that's usually building up a fixed interest rate, somewhere gauging anywhere between 5 to 8% on average. It depends on the companies that you choose. It depends on all the bells and whistles that you add to it, but usually somewhere between 5 and 8% is the standard for most insurance companies with whole life permanent insurance, where you're able to pay into those policies and build what's called a cash value while you're paying into those policies. And that you can access. I like to give the fun fact. Walt Disney tried to start Disney World, and he went to all of the fancy banks and he tried to get large investors from large private corporations, and everybody slammed the door. However, Walt Disney had a pretty good job and had set up a whole life insurance policy before he was able to create Disney World and Walt Disney. And he was able to borrow money from his whole life permanent insurance policy to get Disney World off the ground to where it is today, paired with a couple small investors. So whole life insurance, I want you to write down this term. It's called self-banking. That's one of those foundational building blocks where you can create self-banking for yourself. You can be the bank for you because you're paying monies into this whole life insurance policy with post-tax dollars. So it's already been taxed. You've already gotten your paycheck. You've already gotten monies from your business. You've already paid those taxes. And you're putting money into this whole life policy that's going to get you an average of 5 to 8%. And you can pull money out of this policy with whatever company you're with at any time to use for anything you desire. The hot water heater goes, you can tap into the whole life policy. You want to start a business, you can tap into the whole life policy. Anything comes up out the blue, you can tap into this whole life policy. It's for you to use at your discretion. Do I have any business owners in the chat? Drop a 1 if you're a business owner. Awesome. Starting to see a couple of 1s. Awesome. So to my business owners, whole life insurance can be your best friend as you build and scale your business. What banks won't advertise is when you have a whole life insurance policy, let's say you have a whole life insurance policy for $100,000. We'll give the example. And you have $25,000 in cash value in that $100,000 policy. You are able to take that policy into a bank, a financial institution, your TD banks, your Bank of Americas, your Wells Fargos, and you're able to present them with that. Of course, credit is a factor. We always want to make sure that we're staying on top of our credit. But you are able to take that $25,000 in cash value of that $100,000 policy, and you're able to leverage that to get capital for your business. And the rule of thumb is banks will loan you up to 2 to 3 times. So if you have 25,000, that's potentially $50,000 to $75,000 in capital that you'll be able to leverage with that whole life policy that's protecting the family, also providing you a living benefit, and now enables you to be able to leverage it to gain capital for your business. How's that sound? Does that sound like a money move? Being able to be the bank for yourself? You're paying into that, and it's like, oh, I'm paying that premium, this money is gone. But then you're able to go ahead and say, hey, I can take this into a bank and leverage this to get more money to grow my business. All right, so now that we've covered the basics on life insurance, we're going to talk a little bit about disability insurance. So most people have disability insurance with their jobs. Drop a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with disability insurance. So I like to call disability insurance the underdog because it's something that we kind of don't really think about until we need it. And there are 2 types of disability insurance. There's short-term disability, which is usually what our jobs offer. And then there's long-term disability in the event that we are out for more than just a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Most employers will offer, if you have a benefits package offered with your employer, most employers will offer disability insurance up to 60% of whatever your annual salary is. So not the full 100. So if you're making $100,000 a year and you need short-term disability, let's say you break your leg coming down the steps, now you're out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you're not going to get the 100% pay that you normally would get in your 1 to 2 week. You would only get 60% of whatever your weekly or biweekly pay is. So that's very important to think about, because what's not going to stop when you get hurt and are only getting 60% of your income? Can someone guess in the chat? What doesn't stop? What doesn't drop? Those bills. So now you have to figure out, where is this other 40% going to come from while I'm walking around in a cast? So that's why it's very important to make sure that you have added protections, that risk management outside of what your employer, because oftentimes we get our employer, we got a good job, we get a good salary, and we're like, okay, it comes with health insurance, it comes with life insurance, it comes with disability, and we're like, I'm good. But we don't read the fine print of little tidbits like, oh, it only covers me up to 60% of my income. So what am I going to do for the next 2 to 3 months? So you sit down with a financial planner or a insurance agent, and then you're able to get standalone disability policies that would make up for that 40%. So that way you would be whole 100% of your salary in the event that you are out for those couple of weeks or those couple of months. So that's definitely a conversation. If you have not had it with a professional, you definitely want to make sure that you put that in the plan with covering all of your bases and building that foundation with risk management. In the event that something happens to me, how am I going to make up the difference? And there are certain jobs, government jobs, things of that nature, where they offer more than 60%. But majority of companies, I would gather to say 80 to 90% of companies only offer 60% of your income. So we all have to do our due diligence to make sure that we are covering that other 40% in the event that we are hurt. So that covers short-term disability. Then there's long-term disability. What if I'm out for more than just a couple of weeks or a few weeks, or even a couple of months? What do I do then? That's also something that can be purchase standalone with an insurance agent or a financial planner where you can get long-term disability that would cover you in the event that you're out for a while. You may have to apply for Social Security and then be actually cleared disabled. Those are protections that can be added that you can make sure that you can pair with life insurance to make sure that you have additional living benefits that we're protecting all of the different risks. All right, and I see the questions coming through the chat. I'm going to just get through the list and then I'm going to circle back and we'll answer those questions for you. All right, and then also, and I call this one the invisible man. So now we're going to talk about long-term care. So it's underrated when we talk about disability. We know about disability. We just don't focus on disability as much as we should. But this one I like to call the invisible man. This one is the one that creeps up on us that we don't even realize we need it until it's too late. And that's long-term care. How many of us have a family member, an elder family member, that's in a nursing home or it's been in a nursing facility or has needed a nurse to come home and stay with them? Would you guess that that's not covered in your basic health insurance? You can have the best health insurance, but long-term care is one of those added bonuses that does not come standard in your health insurance. And often what happens as we get older in age, our relatives get older in age, they go into retirement, they now are using their retirement plans, they're using any 401ks, IRAs that they had set up, pension plans, and they're using their health insurance, and they're also now eligible for Medicare. But what it doesn't tell you that Medicare comes in all of these different little buckets that you can pick a la carte. It's not guaranteed that you will have these coverages if you should need long-term care. And what happens is long-term care will put you in that facility. But what they'll do is they'll make you leverage your assets to cover the cost that's not covered by your health insurance. So that retirement plan, that pension plan that you worked really, really hard for, that 401k, that IRA now, is now going to ABC nursing home to cover the costs that Medicare and Social Security and your health insurance won't cover. People have had to mortgage their homes just to make sure that mom and dad are able to have the proper care that they need, either in a nursing facility or at home, because they didn't realize that long-term care would not cover an extended hospital stay. It would not cover a nurse needing to come in around the clock. It would not cover them being hospitalized and now needing round-the-clock care at a skilled nursing facility. Those are things that are not covered in your standard health insurance. It's very, very important. Absolutely. I see in the chat, it's crucial. It is. And with long-term care, there's a clock ticking because you can't get long-term care after 69. So if you do not have it before you get 69, before you turn 69, you will not be able to get it. And it is also based on health, as is life insurance and disability. So it is based on how healthy you are, if you have health conditions, all age, all of those factors play a part into what you would qualify for. So the healthier and the younger you are, the best it is to go ahead and get these safeguards in place. All right, and then we're going to round it out with the one that we all know, health insurance. Making sure that you have health insurance, which is usually pretty standard with anyone who works a traditional 9 to 5. Most companies will offer you some type of benefits package. Some are better than others. And then some, you may need to purchase additional standalone health insurance just to kind of fill in the cracks. And then we also know that thanks to Obamacare, that we also now have the marketplace where you're able to purchase that individually as either supplemental or you can purchase that as a standalone plan. And to my entrepreneurs, that's a conversation that you're going to have more often, as to what it looks like to purchase standalone health insurance in the marketplace and what that looks like to buy it, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're an LLC, whether you're a corporation, whether it's just you or whether you have employees. That's something that you would want to make sure that you're leveraging in your business because it draws in people. Health insurance will draw in quality employees. When they feel that you've taken the time to put safeguards in as a business owner to make sure that they're going to be able to protect themselves and their family, then that makes them vested in your business. And that makes it that much easier to scale. So that's absolutely a conversation that you want to have with your financial professional, if you are an entrepreneur, as to what it looks like to implement health insurance into your business at some point. All right. So before we go over to the next subject, let's tackle some of these questions. All right. So I see how to protect yourself from loss and maximize your gains. So just to recap on all of the different bases that we've talked about, having all of these safeguards in place is how you're able to protect yourself from loss and maximize your gains. Because having that life insurance, that's going to spill over into a later conversation, which we're going to tackle in a little bit, which is wealth transfer. Making sure that you're protecting the mortgage in the event that something happens to you so that your wife and your children or your husband or your children or any relatives or anyone who's under your care is going to be able to have that insurance to supplement the income that they'll be losing in the event of your demise. So making sure that the mortgage is included, making sure that the cars can be paid off, making sure that there's some left over for education. The rule of thumb is you want to make sure that you have at least 6 to 10 years of your salary covered in the event of your demise. So that way your family has that safety net of being able to continue to do business as usual in the event of your demise. Most people get insurance, but are usually underinsured. Of course, you want to make sure that you have enough to cover your family and cover your funeral expenses, things of that nature, pay off any debts that you may have. But you want to make sure, I always say, you definitely want to, whatever your mortgage is, minimum is what you should have for coverage if you're a homeowner, or if you're anticipating being a homeowner, whatever type of home or neighborhood you know you would want your family to end up in, you want to make sure that you have a policy that would at least cover that. And of course, any other expenses that you have, cars, things of that nature that you want to make sure in place. If you know what schools that you want your kids to go to, things of that nature, and you have an idea or estimated cost of what that may be, whether it be private or public institutions, you want to think about all of those different factors as well. I'll give an example. Myself, I'm a mom. I have over $1 million in life insurance. I like to tell my kids, you got to take good care of me because otherwise I'll vote you off the island and write you out the will. You have to treat mom really, really good if you want to be that millionaire. But I make sure I have millions of dollars will go to my children in the event that if I walked out of here tomorrow and I trip down the steps and it doesn't end well, not only will they be able to take care of purchasing homes for themselves and cars and setting themselves up, whether they want to start businesses or things of that nature, they'll also be able to go pay for college. I have kids that are in college. I have kids that are on their way to college. And I sleep good at night knowing that if anything happens to me for the next 30 years, that's that term policy, which usually has the cheap premium, but you can get large amounts, that they are good to go. All right, and let's take next question. And let me know, whoever had that question, if that answers your question, if you had additional questions as well. All right, and I see, do you pay back your loan with a whole life insurance policy? So you can. So the example that we gave, we'll revisit that with the $100,000 policy. And let's say you have the $25,000 in cash value. You can borrow $10,000 from that policy to use at your discretion. You don't have to check in. You don't have to get it approved for what you want to use it for. That is totally up to you what you choose to use that for. You can pay that back while you're alive so that you can continue to gain interest on $25,000 versus now $15,000 after you borrow, or you can just leave it alone. And if you choose to leave it alone, and let's say you pass away, your family will just get $90,000 as opposed to $100,000. So it will be made whole, whether you choose to pay it back while you're living or whether you want to just allow it to come out of your death benefit at the time of your demise. You don't have to worry about that. That's cash that you, and the interest on that is also accruing, and that interest you do not have to pay back. All right, let's see. Next question. We'll take two more questions, then we'll move on to the next. All right, and I see, what is the difference between whole life and IULs? Great question. So a whole life, which is both are permanent insurances, a whole life policy is a traditional whole life insurance policy, an additional permanent policy, traditional permanent policy that is not tied to the stock market. A whole life policy is just by your insurer. You think of your Mutual of Omaha's, your Northwestern Mutuals, all of your major insurers, Foresters, and they will give a fixed interest rate, and you are a policy owner, and then they give you that guaranteed rate over a period of time. It's not tied to the stock market. This is the company guaranteeing that they are going to pay this interest on this policy in exchange for your premiums for a fixed amount of time. So whether the market crashes or whether the market is doing phenomenal, it has nothing to do with your life insurance policy. And that's why life insurance is considered one of the safest traditional investments, because you don't have to worry about what the market is doing. But then, of course, as time has progressed, we've gotten a little fancier in finance. So we realize that while the stock market can be extremely volatile, and we know it can sometimes be unpredictable, when we look at historically what the stock market has done, historically, whether it's crashing and burning or whether it's doing well, historically it performs at 10% on average every year. And that's really good interest, because think about what you're getting on your savings accounts. Think about what you're getting on your CDs and things of that nature. You're barely getting 1%. You might get a fancy high yield savings account that has maybe about 3, 4, 5% nowadays, just to kind of get you in the door. But there's very few investments where you're going to get guaranteed historical returns on average of 10% or more. So because of that, they decided to make a hybrid and marry the two. So you can get your whole life insurance policy with that traditional fixed rate. And also there's a component that's added into that, which is the universal index, with the index universal life policy, the IUL, where you also have a portion of those premiums that are being invested in the stock market to get you higher returns than that traditional 5 to 8%. And based on how the stock market is doing, will determine whether you're getting the fixed, because minimum you're going to get that 5 to 8%, whatever that fixed portion is for the whole life side that's not tied to the stock market. You're guaranteed that. You're not going to lose more than that in your principal, which is your initial investment. But then there's also a portion of those premiums that's being put into a brokerage account from that insurer, and they're going to take that risk, and they're going to, and of course, calculated risk, and they're going to tie that to the stock market and try to get you higher returns. It's not guaranteed that it will perform over this 5 to 8%, but on average, that's something that will usually get you closer to 8 to 10% on returns. All right, we have one more question. Oh, actually, I think we covered them all. Oh, one more question. Yes. And once you get a whole life insurance policy, can you borrow from it immediately, or is there a waiting period? So yes, Yes and no. So, yes, if you invest a lump sum upfront when you purchase your insurance policy, your whole life insurance policy, because you can do one lump sum payment or you can pay over a course of time. So, if you choose the option where you get to pay a lump sum payment, then yes, usually that there is a cash value that's built up instantly within that, usually like a 6 to 12 month period, and you're able to borrow against that. Now, the interest on that, of course, won't be significant because you just put it in. You want to definitely let it marinate. You want to let that grow, and you want to give it some time for that interest to accumulate. However, you can access those funds immediately once you put them in because you're putting in actual liquid cash. Now, with the monthly or annual premiums, things of that nature, you have to build that up over a course of time. So usually most insurers will have a certain dollar amount that you have to accumulate before you're able to tap into those funds. All right. So that wraps up us talking about risk management. So we got to cover all of the foundational building blocks. And now we're going to talk about financial planning. So drop in the chat when you think about financial planning. What are some of the things that come to your mind? Education, absolutely. Retirement, the big one. All right. So yes, education, retirement, and estate planning. Those are, I call those the big three. There are a few more, but these are the big three that everyone thinks about when you're talking about planning your finances and what that looks like to build a portfolio. So we'll briefly touch on education. For those who have school-age children, are planning a family, have not yet built a family, but are eager to learn what can you do to put your children ahead in life. There are accounts that you can set up to pay for college. There are accounts that you can set up to pay for private school while they're in undergrad, while they're in secondary school, while they're in primary school, things of that nature. And those types of accounts are 529 plans, custodial plans. You can just set up a whole life insurance policy, like we just talked about, in your child. As soon as they're born, you can set up a whole life insurance policy where they're building up cash value for that as well. And you can also set up IRAs for your children. So these are all different ways that you can leverage different types of investment accounts to plan for education. Specifically, a 529 education plan, it has to be used for education. I named some of the non-traditional ways of saving for in education for your children, like whole life policies, IRAs, and custodial accounts, because you're not married to, if your kid wakes up and says, you know what, mom, I think I want to be a singer. Or mom, dad, I want to be an entrepreneur. You're able to use those funds for other things outside of education, but specifically with the 529 plan, you are married to making sure that it is those dollars go to a approved institution. All right. Do we have any questions specific to education planning? Because I usually just like to touch briefly on that one, because retirement planning, usually we have a lot more questions around that. Okay, perfect. All right, so retirement planning. What did we put all this work in for? What's the quality of life going to be after we've given it our all and we're ready to kind of hang it up, sit on the beach? Retirement planning I'd say retirement planning is like a thumbprint. It looks different for everyone. Some people just want to be able to take a couple of vacations, sit on the beach with the Mai Tai, and be able to just spend time with the grandkids. And that's it. We have some people who want to be able to buy the RV or the yacht or the boat. And now they want to be able to travel across the world, across the country with their significant other and loved ones. And then we have people who actually like to go back to school. There are people who like to start their businesses now that they've finished out their careers in the workforce. And there's no wrong answer when you're talking about what retirement looks like for you. But the best rule of thumb is to plan backwards. So think about what you want retirement to look like for you now. Think about how much money you spend now. Think about what quality of life you would want. Think about the cost of the quality of life that you currently have. And then put that dollar amount in your head. Write that dollar amount down. So to live comfortably, I currently have a monthly expenditure of 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, whatever that number is in your head. And then of course you're going to multiply that by 12 to get what the annual that you would need to know what is the figure that you're going to need to live off of. And then that's when we get creative to put different types of retirement plans in place to figure out how do we get you as close as possible to that number. The first start is based on your work history. We're going to look at what you will qualify for Social Security. So Social Security is going to be your anchor in retirement. You put in a certain amount of years of work, and they're going to go ahead and invest that monies back into you when you get to the right age, Social Security age, which is usually 65. Now, once you get the foundational building block of Social Security, then that's when we start talking about employer sponsor plans. So that's going to be your 401ks, that's going to be your 403s, that's going to be your 403bs, that's going to be your pension plans, things of that nature, depending your 457 plans. It depends on if you are a government employee, educator, work for hospitals. It'll be different types of plans for all of the different sectors that you work in. But the goal is to now add that onto the foundation of Social Security. With that, there are what's called RDMs, which are required minimum distributions, and that means you have to start taking out money by a certain time. So after you build up this retirement nest egg, you have to start taking money by a certain time, and that's usually by age 72. And then there's what's called early distribution, which is age 59 and a half. That's the magical number. All of these plans that we have in place for retirement, we cannot take any monies out of them before 59 and a half without penalty. So you can access it if you should need to. But if you do so before 59 and a half, then you will get tax penalties, which is usually 10%. And we don't want to pay Uncle Sam any more than we need to. I mean, raise your hand if you just like giving the IRS extra money. Nope, I've never in the history of any presentations ever had someone raise their hand. So we're consistent. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you know when you can take money out and up to what ages that you're putting money in. Right? Drop a 1 in the chat if you have a self-funded retirement plan, your IRAs, Roth IRAs. Perfect. So with that, it gets a little more creative because with the Roth IRA, all of that I just went over as far as minimum distributions and RDMs out the window. That's being used, you're being funded with post-tax dollars. You've already paid taxes on that. So there are no minimums, ages that you can't take that out. You can take that out at age 57. You can take it out at age 67. You can take it out at age 77. That is at your discretion. But also that's a perfect pairing with whatever your employer is offering and then Social Security. So you want to make sure you have those in place. And then you want to also sit down with a financial professional to go into detail because there are too many variables as to what that number and figure how we get to that figure and get strategic with building that for you based on what your income is, assets, things of that nature. And that's a conversation that you kind of pop the hood with your financial professional. But you want to make sure that you're working, so you're paying into Social Security, that you have employer-sponsored plans. if you are an employee, if you are an entrepreneur and a business owner, there are plans that you can get, specifically a SEP, SEP IRA, where you can create a plan for yourself. And if you are considered a corporation, you can actually purchase plans, just like Coca-Cola or McDonald's and things of that nature, where you can purchase an employer-sponsored plan for your business, for yourself and employees. All right, so we're running out of time, so I'm going to just really breeze through. I want to get it over to Tanya, because she has more information to share with you guys, and I'm excited about. But we're going to talk about estate planning. So now that we've put the education plan in place for our children or potential children, now that we have talked about after we've worked in the workforce, after we've built the businesses, we've worked for years, decades in, and we've talked about the foundations of what you need to have in place for retirement planning, and when we can, how early can we tap into that, and what's the latest that we have to start tapping into that without any penalty. What does it look like to transfer that to our heirs, to our family, to our loved ones? That's estate planning. So one of the things that you want to do when you start thinking about estate is thinking about, one, who are going to be the beneficiaries. So those are going to be your heirs, those that you want to inherit the wealth that you have accumulated over the years. You want to get a will in place, which is just a document that you will get notarized that basically gives instructions on where those monies or assets are to be allocated. And then we're going to get a trust. So a trust is usually the one we don't really think about. We think about, okay, I'm going to just get a will. But a will doesn't really, it's not legally binding. It really doesn't mean anything if you haven't gotten some type of financial vehicle to make sure that your wishes are followed through on with the will. The will is like, I'm hoping that someone would honor my wishes. Best case scenario, you're hopeful that your loved ones will honor your wishes. And you're notarizing it to say, this was in fact me of sound mind, able body, making these determinations as to where I want my assets allocated. And I'm hoping and crossing my fingers that my family will follow through with that. But it's not legally binding. Your family can say, okay, rip up the will, and they can go about fighting over your assets if they want. A trust is a legal binding shelter that makes sure that that will is followed explicitly. You use an attorney to set up a trust. You can also use financial advisors, because there are often financial advisors that work directly and partner with attorneys to set up trust as well. And that is basically removing a trust is when you remove ownership of all of your assets and you give the trust, which is an account, a legal account, similar to a bank account, and you're putting everything that you own in this bucket, this legal account. And let's say, for the sake of the conversation, Smith, our last name, everyone's last name is Smith. So we'll have the Smith Family Trust. And you're going to take the house that you and the husband or you and the wife worked hard for, the businesses, any investment properties, all of the different things that you worked really hard for. You're going to put those things in the trust. And now the trust owns it and you own nothing. The goal is to own nothing. The wealthier you get, the less you want to own. You want to put everything in your trust. And that way, it protects you from this really, I hate saying the word, probate. So when we all pass away, it's a free-for-all. Anyone that you have ever owed has an opportunity to come for you and everything that you own to get what they feel that they are owed. Also, you have to go to court. There's a process to be able to be declared deceased and transfer assets over. There's also what's called an inheritance tax, because, they figure out a way to tax everything. So monies that you worked really hard for, that you know you want it to go to the kids or your aunt or your uncle or your nieces or nephews, whoever it is that you want to give monies to. They have to pay a tax just to get it. As if like, why? Doesn't make sense. But when you have that trust, you avoid it. There's no inheritance tax to pay. There's no gift tax to pay because you're not transferring anything. The trust owns it. And you would make those loved ones the beneficiary of the trust, not you. Before you get to that step, so we're going to take a step back because getting a trust, there are costs involved with setting up a trust. And it depends on how much you have in assets. Until you get to that point of setting up the trust, which is the ultimate goal, I want everyone to go on all of their accounts, brokerage accounts, life insurance policies, your retirement accounts, and make sure that you have a beneficiary listed. While you may not be able to avoid the inheritance tax prior to getting the trust set up, you also want to make sure that if they do have to be the beneficiary of your life insurance, your loved ones have to be the direct beneficiary of your life insurance policies, your retirement plans, things of that nature, that you added them as a beneficiary. It makes life so much easier for your loved ones at that time of transition when we're talking about wealth transfer. So if you have a regular bank account, you want to make sure that you're adding your loved ones that you want to inherit, whatever's in your bank account at the time of your demise. It's literally something most of us can go on our online banking apps and you can add a beneficiary to all of your bank accounts. You want to make sure that you do that with your life insurance policies. You want to make sure that you're doing that with your disability, long-term care, all of the different types of insurances and safeguards and accounts and assets, your brokerage accounts that you have. You want to make sure that you have a beneficiary listed to date. So that should be homework for everyone this upcoming week. If you have not already, make sure you have beneficiaries listed on your accounts. And then as you sit down with a financial professional to build and talk about estate planning and building out your portfolio and wealth planning, then we can talk about what it looks like to transition all of that over into a trust, which is the ultimate long-term goal. All right, so I have chatted it up and ran out of time. And if you have questions, please write them down, put them in the chat because we're going to turn it over to Tanya. And then I will be back and we'll talk a little bit more about investing.
Guys, please give it up for Tara in the chat. That was absolutely phenomenal. My fingers hurt. I was taking note after note after note. That was such good information. There was stuff that I thought I knew that I didn't know. Like Latoya put in the chat, the fact that the will is not really legally binding and they could do what they want afterwards and never even considered that. So grateful that you took the time to come on here and share this information with us this morning, because it's crucial. What we are going through as a country is unprecedented. And so we have to really shift gears and be in a different mindset when it comes to what our plan is going to be going forward. And I heard this the other day, and I want you guys to write this down so you have it in your notes and it sticks with you, and it's going to be some more homework. There is a report. It's called the Road to Zero Wealth Report. Road to Zero Wealth Report. And it says, first alarming fact, that as of 2013, Hispanic families' net worth surpassed the net worth of Black families. By all standards, we've been here longer because we were brought here, right? They came after. So people who came here after us, we already know that Asian American families, Indian American families have larger net worths than Black families. But then just now, it's everyone's net worth is higher than a Black family's net worth, right? Number two, this is the one that like hit me in the stomach. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that Tara and I are putting together this meeting of the minds to share this information with you guys, because this was alarming. In 30 years, by the year 2053, so less than 30 years, by the year 2053, 2053, This report, the Road to Zero Wealth Report, says that the median income or net worth for a Black family will be zero. Absolutely astounding. So, with that in mind, like take this information and she's sharing, take the information I'm sharing and run with it, not just for yourself, but for the people you care about, for your children, grandchildren, friends, family. Like, don't be a gatekeeper. Share this info because it's so important. And this is how our community can grow and thrive when we are all looking out for each other's best interests. All right. And so let me see, let me move my chat here. All right. So excited about this finances of the future. If you have enjoyed what you've heard so far, please put a 2 in the chat for enjoyment of the information. Again, thank you, Tara. That was excellent, excellent, excellent. Let me get my chat back up so I can see it. All right, Dr. Rux is like two. He is responsible for nurturing young minds up in New York City. He started a whole school that is a precursor for young students going to HBCUs. So super proud of the work they're doing.
Awesome.
Monisha, yes, Monisha is on this financial wealth tip as well in Pennsylvania. So glad she is here sharing information or getting this information to share with others. And so we are talking about the finances of the future. Tara wrapped it up with the historical assets that we should all have in place. And I'm going to tell you right now, I need to brush up on some stuff. There is some stuff I don't have all the way put together. Just having that full view, a full overview of what needs to be in place was powerful. Again, thank you. So appreciative for free. All right. So a little bit about me. These are, I thought, were some fun pictures. The picture on the left is myself and my husband in our investment banking firm. We owned an investment banking firm where we facilitated financing for businesses that needed anywhere from $1 million to $200 million. He owned it for 24 years. I worked there and ran it for 17 years. The picture of me on the right as the blockchain queen is circa 2018, 2019, somewhere in that era, with me speaking at a crypto conference in Texas to a sold out venue, like people standing up against the walls. The door was like held open from people who were like just leaning in, trying to listen. Phenomenal event. And guys, I'm going to have you put in the chat. I'm going to say the venue held about 600 people. I want you to put in the chat, put a number for me. How many people do you think look like me or us? Let's see a number in the chat. So y'all know the truth out here. You understand that we have a serious assignment because Latoya's number was right. There were 2 other people that looked like me. And when I tell you they were clamoring for this information, for this knowledge back in 20. Oh, and guys, one of them flew in from Nigeria. So, this information is available in other rooms in other communities, and they show up in droves. And it was a weekend long conference. They came Friday night, Saturday night. We had a Sunday breakout session for people who had questions and wanted to have a little bit more of an intimate gathering. It was not intimate. They all showed up. They showed up strong in droves and brought people with them on Sunday. I left like Tuesday, exhausted, completely exhausted. Had no idea that type of turnout for something. We're like, oh, we'll come back Sunday. We thought people would go to church and leave it alone. That wasn't the case. They wanted the knowledge. They wanted to get the information. They wanted their questions answered. So you being here on a Saturday morning when you could be sleeping, you could be hanging out with the family, you could just be chilling, but you're here getting knowledge. I am telling you, you are beyond the top 1% mentality wise when it comes to pursuing your financial knowledge and your financial wealth. And so I'm going to commend you for actually being here. I'm going to do a speed round because we have great information, more great information we want to share with you, and we have some prizes at the end. So stay to the end. We're going to give away some really good stuff for you guys. The financial evolution is here. It is no longer, oh, okay, this is something that is potentially going to come. The shift from traditional to digital has happened. The world is rapidly moving to a digital economy. Just like cash turned into credit cards back in the day, finance is evolving towards blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And when they talked about in that report, the Zero Wealth Report, the major reason for that change is that our young people and our adults now did not choose math and engineering as a course of learning to move into the technology fields where the money is. Our young people need to be of that mindset, but I'm going to take it a step further and say that it's financial literacy and education that even played a bigger role because we are used to sometimes robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then once you're past that point in life, you're like, okay, now I want to be able to live a lifestyle I wasn't able to live now that I'm set up and established. And then there's no one there in the room to take you to the next part. So again, Tara being here, taking us to the next part and giving us an overall picture of what your financial situation should look like is powerful. So wealth is moving to decentralization. And so having that traditional system in place is very important to have as a stepping stone to also make sure that you're looking to diversify. Traditional banking systems are going to be centralized while they're centralized, right? While crypto offers financial sovereignty. The future is about being in control of your own money. So when I talked about being an investment banker and helping people facilitate financing, those rooms are invite only most of the time. The access to information was invite only. This future being about decentralized financing allows anyone to have access and be in the room and be able to make money. You don't have to be an accredited investor to be able to participate and make money. So having an abundance mindset is important. Instead of fearing new technology, I need you to see it as an opportunity. Cryptocurrency and blockchain aren't just about money, they represent financial freedom, innovation, and global inclusion. Again, not needing to be welcome to the room, but actually being here. All right. And belonging. Belonging is so important. So, real quick, what excites you? Put it in the chat. What excites you or scares you about crypto? And I'm gonna go back and look as I go on and talk. So, what excites you or scares you about crypto? Here are some of the basics that I want everyone to know about cryptocurrency. First of all, what is cryptocurrency? It's digital money that operates on blockchain technology. It's decentralized. That means no government owns it, although our current government is trying to take some control of it. It is not owned by no government. It's borderless. So the currency here is available in other countries as well. Unlike the US dollar, when we go to another country that doesn't accept the US dollar as their currency, you have to go and exchange it for a different currency. And there's going to be a exchange rate. So you go at the airport or at a money exchange center and you exchange your US dollar, let's say for a yen, in order to be able to shop. Well, there's an exchange rate. That US dollar is not 1 yen, or I don't even know what the equivalent of their dollar bill is, but it's not 1 to 1. The value changes. And so with digital currency, the value is the same everywhere. That levels the playing field. And it's open to anyone with internet access. There are still, guys, you wouldn't even imagine, there are still people without bank accounts, people who can't have bank accounts. And so when you're able to get rid of that barrier and allow the unbanked to have access to funding as long as they have an internet access. It doesn't even have to be their own cell phone. They can go to a library and use the internet and have access to crypto. And so the blockchain, what is this blockchain that you're talking about that the cryptocurrency is on? The blockchain is a transparent, it's, think of it like a ledger. When you go to, you watch an old movie and you see that they had the book with the ledger of who owes money, who sent money, who is going to get money, who is owed money. That is a paper ledger. When you think about in a banking system, they say Tanya has this amount in her bank account. Latoya wants to receive a portion of that money. And so, yes, Tanya is able to send her that money and that check will be cash. Okay. And so that is a ledger system where the blockchain is just a digital ledger, which is transparent. There is no guessing game. You can see what's there, what's available, and when and how much money was sent in an instant. All right. So it's immutable and it records transactions securely. That's a big change. The future of the world, what it looks like with blockchain technology will blow your minds once you really start to understand it. And that's what I fell in love with 8 years ago when I started studying blockchain technology. So real quick, some types of cryptocurrency. There is the Big Daddy. This is the very first cryptocurrency to be established. It's called Bitcoin. The ticker symbol is BTC. You want to always have this as a part of your portfolio. It's the first cryptocurrency to ever be created. It is not owned by anyone, and it is recognized as a digital currency or a store of value like digital gold. So much so that the United States now holds it as a part of their reserve, their financial reserve. That is a major development in cryptocurrencies. We weren't the first country to do it, but we are the first superpower to do it. And so that gave it a big boost in credibility. Another type of cryptocurrency, and just to give you, or I'll go to that later, but another type of cryptocurrency is Ethereum. And the ticker symbol for that is ETH. Ethereum is the second cryptocurrency to be developed. So on the blockchain, remember that ledger, that digital ledger? Let me give you this other tip. Blockchain also, you'll also be heard, also hear it referred to as Web 3.0. Right now, us being on this computer and being able to watch this video and communicate with each other, that's Web 2.0. Web 3.0 is the next level of the internet, which is the blockchain. So years ago, when we were all exchanging AOL discs just so we can send an email to each other, we couldn't get on a video. We couldn't communicate over the internet outside of that disc that we were sharing. That was Web 1.0. So as things continue to develop, you're going to see technologies develop. And so Ethereum was the second app that was built on Web 3.0. Bitcoin was the first app. Ethereum was the second. And Ethereum did something different. It allowed for smart contracts to be put into place. What is a smart contract? It's a regular contract that you would have anywhere else. So your will, your trust documents, your deed to your home, the title to your car, all of that now can be put on the blockchain to make access to it immediate. And so here's an example. The state of California is the first to do it. Every single vehicle that has a title in the state of California is now on the blockchain. That was a big move for the state of California and for people everywhere. So, excuse me. Imagine selling your car and you can't find the title to it. You own it outright, but you can't find the title. Now you got to go look for it. You need to get a new car. You need to sell the first one. And now you got to go to the DMV, make an appointment, sit there, wait. In Maryland, it could be a week or two before you can even get the appointment. You got to sit there and wait. And then after you go through all the paperwork, show them proof that you actually own the vehicle. Good luck with that. They will then mail you the document in the US postal system. whole cluster FUK. All right. So this speeds up the process. This now says that go onto an app for the California Department of Transportation, and every single vehicle is there. The title is there. And if you need to transfer it to someone, you transfer it on the app. No more getting in line, no more waiting, no more trying to find it. It is all there. It's immutable, and there's no question who owns the vehicle. So love the fact that Ethereum created the technology to be able to do that. So think about the different cryptocurrencies on the blockchain as different types of technology on the internet. We have Zoom that's allowing us to communicate. We have Google that allowed us to do everything. It started with emails, then it went to being able to have a telephone number over Google. Like that's crazy, right? We used to have to plug it into a wall and drag that phone cord all over the house. Well, things are changing and technology is changing. And you'll see many more advancements with this technology. And so there are also something called altcoins and stable coins. So an altcoin is any cryptocurrency, any coin that was created after Bitcoin. That's going to be considered an altcoin, short for alternative coin. Okay. And then stable coins, and they are on the equivalent of the New York Stock Exchange. So when a company goes public and it's put on a stock exchange, we are able to go onto Cash App and buy a piece of stock in that company. We're able to talk to Tara and say, I want this in my portfolio when you put together my portfolio and get a piece of that company to build your net worth. Well, cryptocurrencies are on the equivalent of the New York Stock Exchange, but they're on a cryptocurrency exchange. So those are going to be Bitcoin and all of the other altcoins. And at this point in time, there are millions of them. And so one of the types of coins, and you know, the stocks go up and down every single day. You turn on MSNBC and you hear them talking about companies and their value and the stock value. Stable coins are a variation of the type of cryptocurrencies that are available. Stable coins are cryptocurrencies tied to the value of the US dollar. It does not change. It is always about $1 or 99.7 cents. All right. It's always tied to the value of the US dollar. And so when you're looking at having a full portfolio, I'm going to break down later what that can look like when you put together a full and rounded portfolio. So here's a tip. I love this. Usually when I tell people this, they're like, what? You do not have to buy a full Bitcoin, guys. You can start with as little as $5. Some platforms, even $1. Why do I say this? Because I want you to just get started. You heard that stat that within less than 30 years, the average Black family will have will have a zero medium net worth. We don't want that. We have to take action now. Tara said, start putting together your plan. I want one of the pieces of your plan is to learn about crypto. I make it really easy to learn. That is my tagline. I'm Tanya, the blockchain queen. I make crypto easy to learn and easy to purchase. Getting as little as $5 in cryptocurrency can get the butterflies out your stomach. So you can look at it, you can sit there and watch it for 6 weeks and say, okay, this is what happened. You can go in there every day. I love when people just get $5 worth, and they get to look at it and see this is real, this is happening. And then if they really want to, they can go to a Bitcoin ATM and take their $5 out or their $5 plus profits and be able to see that it's a real currency and make it make sense. So the biggest thing, when I talked about me wanting you to learn and be educated, it is because there are scams. There are scammers. Anytime there is anything that dealing with money, whether it's the US dollar, a peso, you go to a different country. I love going to countries where they speak other languages and having someone from that country with me to tell me that's not the price you should be paying for that shirt or that bag or that piece of jewelry, because they understand the language. There's always someone somewhere who may be looking to take advantage. And so when you are not educated about cryptocurrency, you are a sitting duck. So here are some of the basic things that you need to understand. Never, ever, ever share your private keys or seed phrases. These are the codes that you will be given access to when you set up your cryptocurrency wallets. Never, ever give these to anyone. They will be a part of your estate plan. They will go into that information, will go into your will, into your trust, into trusted parties only to have access to this information. What will happen a lot of times is that you may have a question and someone will pretend their customer service and say, okay, I just need your private key or your seed phrase. And the unknowing parties give it away within seconds before you can utter your next word. Your entire portfolio is gone. So that is the first one. Write that down, underline it, circle it, tell everyone you know, right? Double check the URLs or the websites. There are things called phishing links. I was duped myself. I have my own rules for when I should and should not work in the world of finance. One of them is do not do anything between 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. Mama needs to be asleep. Those are my rest hours. So y'all got me on a real good day because we started right after 10 a.m., right? I don't do anything financially between 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. I'm not at my best. One morning I got up before taking a flight, going on vacation, and I decided to do something with one of my cryptocurrency accounts at 5 a.m. in the morning. Did not double check the URL. They asked for my secret key. I knew better, but I was sleepy. I was groggy. And within 8 seconds, it timed it because it tells you exactly what time everything moved. My account was wiped out that fast. That's why I'm telling you this information. I like to say I'm giving it to you from my rib. I have 8 years of experience out here, and I know the do's and the don'ts, and I want you to know them before you have any heartache like I have had and experience. And the other thing, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Very, very basic rule of life. So dispelling some quick crypto myths. Cryptocurrency is only for criminals. That is the first myth I want to dispel because it is the one that kept me from having an insane amount of massive wealth. And I got it from someone who apparently didn't know what they were talking about. They told me that Bitcoin was a scam and stay away from it. They got the information from someone who they trusted, a bank president. The bank president told my attorney told me, and in 2010, when my client offered to pay us a $25,000 retainer using Bitcoin, we didn't know what it was. So I wanted to research it. And I went and asked someone who didn't know what it was. And they wanted to research it for me. And they went and asked the opposing party, who's like, wait a minute, no, tell them to send the 25,000 in cash. Don't give it to her in this digital currency that's our competition. Guys, at that time, digital currency, Bitcoin was the only one, was 10 cents a coin. He was going to give us $25,000 worth as our non-refundable retainer. We turned him down because we heard it was illegal. And at that time, that would have been 250,000 Bitcoins. You can do the math. Bitcoin at its height was over 100,000 a coin. That would have been $250 billion that me and my family and my legacy would have been worth. We could have spent 50% of them, 75% of them buying pizza and doing whatever else we wanted when we didn't know any better, when it was 10 cents a coin, and still been hog nasty, filthy rich right now. So education, knowing the truth, having trusted parties that you can rely on to get the information, and me dispelling these myths for you right away can really make a difference. Myth number 2, crypto has no real world use. It absolutely does. As I told you, the US government now holds Bitcoin as its financial reserve, cryptocurrency reserve. You can go to any Costco in the United States and find a Bitcoin ATM and pull your money out. You can also use your crypto to buy so many assets and pay for different things like real estate, cars, yachts, anything you can imagine. There is someone out there who would be willing to accept your cryptocurrency for it. I was in New Orleans for a couple of weeks, walked down Royal Street in the French Quarter. Have a video of it I'm going to share at some point when I'm untired and after recovery and detox from New Orleans. Um, I was on Royal Street. That's where all the antique shops are. It's so beautiful. One of the most beautiful streets in the French Quarter. It is the most beautiful street in the French Quarter. Walk past the store and out the corner of my eye, Bitcoin accepted here at an antique shop. So you will find stores and people who understand the value of cryptocurrency because right now, let's say if Bitcoin's valued at 90,000 a coin and you pay somebody $10 worth, well, if it goes up in value 20%, that $10 that would have just been 10 US dollars. And now the price of eggs is not just $10 for a carton, it's now $18 a carton. They can't go get those eggs. But if they have it in digital currency and the value goes up 20%, they now earn money on that money just sitting still. So it does have a real world use. Bitcoin is dead. Absolutely not the case. This currency is going to be accepted by more and more countries as their legal standard going forward. Institutions will adopt it, governments will adopt it, and with the lawsuit against XRP being dropped from the Security Exchange Commission last week, you're going to see more and more crypto acceptance with governments, with institutions, and it's going to just be a whirlwind of information. So it's important to educate it first. The future of financing isn't coming, it's already here. The question, my friends, is will you be a part of it? So I want you to consider learning more. Latoya, can you drop in the chat the links because I want you to have it now, but we're also going to wrap up with it later. Um, some of the things that my students who are a part of my continuing learning, I have lives like this every Tuesday. They last anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes where I am educating people every single week in bite-sized pieces so that you can come on and get more information in my inner circle. So the link just got dropped in the chat so you can access the inner circle and join that. Guys, it's $7 a month. That's a cup of coffee. So you're really buying me a cup of coffee and I'm getting on here every Tuesday and giving you something that is going to change your life. So that's part of learning more. Taking action would be joining my Blockchain Queen Bitcoin Basics course. It is my course that's self-paced. You go online, it's 5 chapters. And I took my 17 years of investment banking experience plus my 8 years of cryptocurrency experience, combined them after the elections last year when I was like just distraught and depressed about the turnout of the election, what it meant for our country, and then reading reports like the Zero Wealth Report. All of this is said for me, to whom much is given, much is required. It's one of the things that my mom always said. And if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And so I felt like I needed to do something to help the people, give them the knowledge that I have, my passion, and share that information. And so I created my online self-paced course. And when you complete it, it comes with a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with me for free. I help you understand what's going on with your portfolio. What if you already have a wallet? So many people already had cryptocurrency, already had wallets, and like someone just told me to get it. I don't know what this stuff is. I help them understand what that is. And then I want you and I encourage you outside of me and Tara, stay informed. Start watching news channels with valuable information about finance, about crypto, about trends that are happening, and then bring them back to the community because we are both working professionals. Well, I'm retired. I do this because I love it. But Tara is in the office. I am out coaching and mentoring people, and we can't be everywhere at all times. But when you see something and you bring it back to us, it makes us better, sharper, faster. We can research it, we can evaluate it and say, yes, this is something you should definitely look at and be able to help you make better and informed decisions. So having our eyes and ears expand by another 15 people this morning just makes our community that much better. And so the golden rule, and I'm going to wrap up with the golden rule. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Guys, for everybody, this may mean a different amount. For some people, it may be, okay, I'm going to start with that $5 and I won't care about it. I won't think about it. For other people, it may be like, okay, I was going to get another pair of red bottoms that I wasn't going to wear because they hurt my feet, but I just wanted to have them. That doesn't help you, your family, your kids. Their feet is probably bigger than yours, so they don't need them anyway when you die. Take that money that you would have spent on some red bottoms and put it into your portfolio of investment. Crypto is powerful but volatile. So think of it like learning to drive. You're not going to get in the car for the first time. And if you did, go ahead and floor it on day one. You were in trouble, but you're going to start moving slowly and progressing slowly. So use your extra money, not your rent money, your mortgage money, your food money, your emergency fund. Use your extra money. We all have some extra money to start investing in your stock portfolio with Terra, your insurances, your crypto, to have an overall wealth so that we are not a part of the statistic that is coming over the next less than 30 years. And so smart investors use allocation, not emotion. And that is a part of coming every Tuesday and getting more information. My students are now out there helping people get them off the ledge, just say, no, 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 no. You're not looking at that the right way. And here's something you may want to consider so that you're not looking at social media and the news and making rash decisions based on emotion and the fear. The news media is only going to tell you what they want you to know based on what they want you to do. And guys, it's not set up for us to win. It never has been. And so, with that, I want you to start small, stay consistent, and grow with your knowledge. Turning it back over to Tara.
All right. I'm excited to build my crypto portfolio. Who else is excited to build their crypto portfolio? Drop a 2 in the chat if you are building your crypto portfolio, you are going to build that portfolio, or you're already ahead of the curve. Drop a 1 if you're already ahead of the curve in investing. Drop a 2 if you are excited to hit the ground running after listening to Tanya. Awesome. Awesome. I'm also putting some sources in the chat. These are great ways, as Tanya touched on, to stay informed. Watching Bloomberg, CNBC, Yahoo Finance, Investopedia it's a great starting point for just basic knowledge, understanding the jargon and the terminology that's often used in finance. So that way you're able to really go ahead and touch on just the conversations that you hear at the water cooler, and you're able to know what they're talking about when they're using some of those terms that are a little unfamiliar to the average person. So Investopedia is a great place to start to just get general knowledge and definitions in the finance jargon. Also, you want to make sure Morningstar is really, really good. So Morningstar is my personal favorite. So I highly recommend checking Morningstar at least 3 times a week. It'll tell you about different companies that are going to IPO, which we know is the initial public offering, a private company that wants to be listed on a stock exchange and now wants to be a public company where they allow the general public to buy parts of the company. They list those types of acquisitions and upcoming deals on Morningstar. They will talk about it on Bloomberg and CNBC as well.
Real quick question. Is that morning STAR or START?
STAR, star.
Thank you.
Like in the sky, correct. It's in the chat as well if anyone needs to access it. All right. So Tanya, I kind of have to steal a phrase from you that you ended it with that stuck out to me. You said you teach your students to focus on allocation, not emotion. And that couldn't be more true. And it's a perfect segue for us to talk about the next portion. So not only are we going to start talking a little bit more about investing, talking on the traditional side, talking about the stock market, bond market, things of that nature, and the different types of vehicles that you're able to invest in. But I first want to talk about the psychology of money, because none of this means anything if we don't talk about what's our initial relationship with money. So everybody take an opportunity to drop in the chat. Tell me something that you learned from your family, from friends, from your elders growing up about money. What's one of the first things you learned about money growing up? And again, no wrong answers. It doesn't go on trees. That's one of the number one phrases in our community. Don't tell anyone that you have any. Pay yourself first. That's awesome. That is a great point to pass down. And one of the people in the chat put, I didn't have those kinds of conversations, which honestly speaking, that's the response for most of us. Most of us didn't have these kinds of conversations growing up. So we don't have a healthy relationship when we hear the word money or finances or assets or wealth. We think it's for someone else. We think phrases like it must be nice or I don't know what they're talking about. It makes us uncomfortable sometimes to talk about money. And one of the first rule of thumbs that they will teach you when you get into the financial industry, I want you to write this next phrase down. Remove your emotional attachment to money. It is a tool. I'm going to repeat it again. Remove your emotional attachment to money. It is a tool. And like any other tool, it will do what you make it. So once we remove our emotional attachment, because we work hard for our money, that's the reality of it. Like we're not going to just breeze by throwing out phrases and not acknowledge the fact that we work hard for our money. We understand that the world runs on money. And anything that we aspire to do, we need money capital to do it. So it's really easy to be emotionally attached to the dollars that you are putting blood, sweat, and tears into to accumulate. And when you think about money, we either are constantly working for it, or we can be the first in our families and in our lineage to jump on to calls like today, to log onto the sites and the information, to access the courses and the classes, so that we are making sure that we learn how to make that money work for us. Because if you don't make money work for you, you will always be working for it. So now we're going to talk about some of the different ways to make that money work for you. So talking about investing, which Tanya touched on what it looks like in this new digital age to start building a crypto portfolio. It's no longer just rumors. It's no longer just something that you kind of hear about that only rich people have access to. It's not something that's just used for scam artists on the dark web. This is here. It's real, and it's now a fabric in our financial economy, and we have to make sure that we are educating ourselves on that, so that way we can start to transition what is the future of investing and making sure that I'm ahead of the curve and I have that in my portfolio. But as I like to say with our generations, you got to take from the new school, you got to take from the old school. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. But if it is, then you quickly learn how to fix it. And Tanya just dropped plenty of game on us on how we can fix it and make sure that we're staying up to date and current with the new ways of investing, because it is the wave of the future. Eventually, decades in, everything's going to be digital. But we want to start with making sure that we are still making sure that we have those traditional investments in place. So we talked about what the traditional investments look like. We talked about what are the three pillars of financial planning. That's estate planning. That's your Your retirement, that's education planning. We also talked about all of the different foundational building blocks that you want to have in place with risk management. Those are your insurances, your disabilities, your long-term cares. You want to make sure you have all of those foundational building blocks in place. And then we want to talk about the psychology of money, budgeting. You can't invest if you don't have money to put into those brokerage accounts. And that comes with developing the disciplines to have a budget in place. Drop a 1 in the chat if you have a budget. Drop a 2 in the chat if you're a work in progress. We'll circle back to that conversation. It's okay. It's a safe space. You're already doing the hard part. So Tanya touched on it going over her presentation, that you never want to invest money that you don't have to spare. So if you have a savings account with $5,000 in it, and that's your emergency savings, just in case anything pops up in life, that's not the money you use to invest. The rule of thumb is you want to have at least 3 to 6 months of savings that would cover your monthly income. So 3 to 6 months of your monthly income is what you want to have saved up in a high yield savings account, a traditional savings account. You can have that in a brokerage account, but you want to make sure that you have at least 3 to 6 months of income and expenses saved in an account. After you establish that nest egg, that security blanket, that emergency fund of 3 to 6 months, then you want to make sure that you start allocating any excess monies into a brokerage account. What is a brokerage account? A brokerage account, very similar to a banking account. It's just an account that's specifically allocated for you to put funds in so that you can invest in the stock market. Those are your Charles Schwab's, your Morgan Stanley's, your TD Ameritrade's, your Vanguards. All of those financial institutions provide brokerages. Bank of America, also paired with Merrill Lynch. They're all going to offer you an opportunity to set up a brokerage account in addition to banking accounts. And that's when you're able to make those transfers from the checking account into the brokerage. And then now we're ready to play ball and talk about what types of investments that we can start allocating those funds to. So the number one, which we all know, is stocks. Stocks is nothing but shares of a company. A company decides that they want to go from a private corporation or private owned business, whether it's a mom and pop or a large corporation, and they decide, I now want to be a public company and allow everyday people like everyone in this chat to now have a piece of the pie. I want them to also be able to access ownership of my company. I'm confident that my company is doing well, will continue to grow and do well, and I want to share that wealth with the rest of the general public. The monies that I raise, sharing that wealth, so everyone gets a piece of the pie here, we're going to use that capital, and this is the owner of the corporation or the mom and pop business, and we're going to use that capital to invest in the company and to grow it to those dollars amounts that we think that we're capable of reaching. So that's all investing in stocks is a company values how much they think they're worth in the now. They value how much they think they will be worth in the future. And then based off of those values that they come up with, and they usually have an army of accountants and financial professionals and CFOs that are working to create those valuations. They usually get outside investment banks, similar to that of what Tanya and her husband used to do. And they will get them to value what they think the company is worth now and what they think the company is projected to be worth. And they come up with a figure, which is usually in the millions, sometimes in the billions. And then they divide that and they come up with what they call the share price, which is the price that they're going to sell it to you for. So you're able to own a fraction of that company at a specific share price that's determined by the valuation of the company and their team, and also outside entities that value it as well. And then now you're able to buy in a piece of that pie when they go public. And that's when they do what's called the IPO, which is the initial public offering. And it's basically just their coming out party to the community, to the general public at large, saying, hey, we're here, we're no longer private, you can have a piece of the pie too, and this is how much you can get owned, and for this amount. You're able to buy as much or as little as you like of that company. If they do well, you do well. If they don't do well, you don't do well. You're in this with them. It's one band, one sound. Now you are now an owner of the company, even if it's just a small fraction of the pie. One of the things that you want to do with stocks is you want to make sure that you do your homework with researching stocks. Every company that is a public institution has to make their financials available to the general public. So I want to do a quick exercise that I like to teach everybody. Go to walmart.com. Everybody drop a 1 in the chat once you get to walmart.com. Most of us I know will be on our phones. I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the website. Drop a 1 in the chat once you're at the bottom of the website. All right, so once you click that, I want you to click Our Company. Drop a 1 once you click Our Company, and it takes you to another site. We're learning how to research stocks in real time. All right. Once you get to Our Company, it takes you to a third-party site where it should say corporate.walmart.com if you're on your cell phone. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see the 3 lines. It'll be a menu. You should see About, Purpose, News, Investors, Suppliers, Careers, Ask Walmart. Click on Investors. And now I want you to click on Stock Information. And you just found all the details on the public corporation Walmart. So when you're thinking about how do I know what stocks to pick, this is what you want to do. You want to go to the websites of these major corporations that you use every day: Foot Locker, Walmart, Target, Amazon, Apple. We won't name that other one that makes those funny looking cars that we're not talking about right now, but you know, companies like that. You go to their main sites, usually either on the top left or right hand corner, you can do a drop down menu, or in most cases, it's usually all the way at the bottom of the website, like we just went through the steps now, and you'll see Our Company, you'll see About, or you'll see Investors. And in those cases, you're able to click on one of those, and usually it will take you to this information where you're able to look at how much the company is worth, what's the stock price. You're able to look at what their quarterly and annual reporting is so that you can know whether they're doing well, whether they owe a lot of money and took out a bunch of loans. You can learn whether or not they have been performing over the last 3, 4, 5 years. You can go all the way back because every company has to produce quarterly and annual reports of their finances. When they become a public company, that now is their legal obligation to make sure that that's available to anyone that potentially wants to invest in their company. So this is your way to do your homework when you're researching what's a good stock to buy. Also, we want to talk about ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. And then there are also mutual funds. Basically, they are the mommy and baby versions of each other. Mutual funds is when there's a fund that has a whole bunch of different stocks inside of that fund. So that way it practices the art of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So you'll have all of the different companies that we named, your Walmarts, your Amazons, your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, all of those different companies will be inside of this fund. So if one stock is not doing well, it'll be balanced out by the other stocks that are doing well. So again, we're practicing the art of not putting all our eggs in one basket. It allows you an opportunity to invest into multiple companies at one time, investing in a fund. ETFs versus mutual funds. Mutual funds are larger and they're usually managed by a fund manager. ETFs are smaller and they are not managed by a fund manager. And they are also the cheaper option. But both allow you to invest in multiple companies at once because you're investing in a bucket that is filled with different companies. I saw someone talk about futures. Futures is investing in commodities. Everything that we do and use today that's a commodity, rice, oil, grain, gas, all of those different things are futures. You are able to invest in coffee. You're able to invest in oil. You're able to invest in all of the things that we use on a daily basis. They are trading on it on the stock exchange. Being able to diversify your portfolio and have monies allocated into the things that we use every day. Being able to invest in multiple companies at once. Being able to buy and have ownership in stocks directly so that you have a fractional piece of the pie. Even if you don't have a full share, own a large share, you're able to do so. Yes, I see someone put I watched Trading Places this week. Exactly. That's one of my favorite movies to watch in regards to finances. But yes, you want to make sure that you're educating yourself, and all of those sites that I dropped in the chat are great places to start with the definitions of these different types of investment vehicles, but then also getting in the habit of directly checking the company websites and then pairing that with the sites that I dropped in the chat to educate yourself on how they're performing in the market. And the beautiful thing about that is Tanya kind of gave us a little bit of insight. All of these things will be available on blockchain. So you'll eventually be able to access your traditional investments on blockchain. They're currently working to regulate to pair the two. The reason why they're not paired yet is just simply because the government is like, wait a minute, we got to figure out how to regulate this so we make sure we get our piece of the pie. And once we figure out how we get our hands in the pot permanently, legally, then we'll tell you, okay, this is acceptable. Use it for all, and they'll merge and integrate the two. It's just like when we were traditionally on the stock floor, paper trading, and then they got computers. It was like, wait a minute, let's figure out how we can regulate this. Let's figure out how we can legalize and monetize this for the government. And now this is the new method that we use moving forward. So that's all they're doing with blockchain. Right now, they're just trying to get their heads around how do we navigate, legalize, and monetize for government entities using blockchain. Once they get that underway and they have that airtight, which they are working now to do, and that's things like the XRP lawsuit that was dropped, things of that nature that was filed with the SEC. That was dropped for a reason. They're now figuring out how to regulate that, and XRP is one of the many alternative coins, altcoins that Tanya referenced, that will be a new form of payment. So the more you know, the more you can diversify your portfolio. So one of the things that I like to do with my clients is I like to have all of my clients feel informed. My goal is to have you all as baby, mini, knight you as honorary advisors. So at the barbecue, the cookout, the family function, Thanksgiving dinner, you can make these kinds of conversations normal water cooler conversations with amongst your family and friends. And with me, you can have an initial client meeting, and that is free. So my initial client meetings are free. It's what I call my discovery meeting. It's an opportunity for me to learn more about you, because while all of this information that I've shared today and that Tanya shared today is great, again, your financial portfolio is like a thumbprint. It's not going to look the same for any one individual. So we have to pop the hood and learn more about you and specifically what your goals are and what does financial freedom look like for you, for us to be able to tailor fit a plan specifically to you. So in that discovery meeting, that's something that we'll dive deep into and kind of get into the nitty gritty. And I always make that free, just so that even if you decide not to move forward, you at least have gotten the juices flowing to think about what it is and how you need to get started with building out a financial portfolio for yourself. If you are on this Zoom, I am giving an offer that I never do. I never do. But because I am so excited to help everyone who has taken the time on a Saturday at 10 a.m., I am going to offer my client services 50% off. So my initial client onboarding fees, because I am a fee-based advisor, 50% off, half off to get started. So after your free consultation, because you still get that one free consultation, then we are able to talk about what cost would look like for you, because again, it's different for everyone. And whatever we decide, whatever your financial plan is, whatever the costs are for you, half off. And that's for your first year of planning. So not only is Tanya for a cup of coffee going to tell you how you can build that crypto portfolio so you can be ready for this new school, new wave, but you're also going to be able to sit down with a financial planner for free and build out a financial plan for 50% off in your first year. So we are giving the game away. We are making sure that that report is inaccurate, because we can't have that. Zero wealth, that's just unacceptable. And it comes with us having these uncomfortable conversations. It comes with us being transparent about what we don't know, because you can't know what you don't know. And I'll leave you with a tidbit that I teach my children. Stupidity is not knowing that you don't know, and then pretending you know, or doing nothing about the fact that you don't know. Ignorance is simply not knowing. We're all ignorant of something, and that's okay. You have the power to change ignorance and not choose to be stupid. No one is stupid is a choice. No one is ever stupid. That's a choice that you make. It's okay to say that you're ignorant of things. We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always evolving. Today, you're empowering yourself to change your ignorance on finance. So I'm excited to work with anyone who wants to dive deeper into that for themselves one-on-one. I'm dropping my email in the chat if you did not register. So I have a list of everyone that's registered. Drop a 1 in the chat if you would be interested in a one-on-one follow-up. If you did not register, I am dropping our general email in the chat. And all you have to do is send us an email with the header for today's class and your contact information, your full name, best telephone number to reach you on, and myself and my team will be reaching out to get everyone scheduled this week. But that's only if you email us today. Today and today only, email us. So you're going to put finances of the future in the header. And you're going to email us at info@colstonwilliams.com. And that's for those who did not register. Because if you register and I see your one in the chat, we have your email. We'll reach out to you. But it has been my absolute pleasure sharing with you guys today. I know we have a couple little tidbits that we're going to give away, and I'm excited for that. But I'm going to turn it back over to Tanya.
You also have an exercise for everyone.
Yes, yes, we forgot the exercise. So thank you for that, reminding me of that. Now that we have this wealth of knowledge, if you had $100,000 and you had to figure out what you wanted to do with it within 24 hours, everybody drop in the chat, what would you do? Don't overthink it. Think rapid fire, think fast. What would you do? And be as specific as you can. Where would you get started with $100,000 within the next 24 hours? I love it. 50,000 in a whole life policy, 50,000 in a crypto portfolio, pay off all credit and credit cards and debt, renovate homes. I love it. A 529 plan, a trust, crypto portfolio. Amazing. So we got the wheels are turning now. So these are no longer taboo, uncomfortable conversations. Now we're going to jump at the chance to talk about finance. We're going to jump at the chance to talk about what the stock market is doing, because now we can go and look up what that company is doing. We now know how to check to see if a company is healthy. We now know what we need. What are the pillars of wealth? We now know what are the foundational building blocks. We can talk fancy now and say, yeah, my risk, risk management. We're really be just talking about it. And then the uncles and the aunties going to be like, what's risk management? What are you talking about?
I love it.
And then that's your opportunity to scoop and score and talk now with authority about life insurance and disability and long-term care.
I love this. When Tara and I first connected on social media at the end of last year, it was like maybe September, October, and we started talking and planning this. The changes that have happened with the cryptocurrency since then. No, it was maybe November.
Yeah.
The changes in the world of cryptocurrency have been earth shattering, like amazing. This information has changed so quickly. But this traditional financial system of investing has been here for years, and we still don't have that right. So now we got the power of her knowledge to get the traditional investing portfolios put together, plus be in the very forefront of crypto investing and portfolios. There is nothing that can stop us. And guys, you have hung in here because we really thought we were going to do 15 minutes, like 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. But like Joseph said, this information is too powerful. I got so many notes from someone who's been in the financial field for years, has financial advisors. But sometimes when people they're used to you and you've been around forever, you've been with them for 20 years, they stop talking to you about the basic plans and making sure that everything is put together. So having this information is so powerful. And I am just, again, so elated and grateful that this sister said, let's do something. Let's put our heads together and empower our people on a Saturday morning for free, because it's our passion and it's what we want to do. And so So I'm so grateful for our like minds being here and together. I'm grateful for all of you that showed up. You're our tribe, our community. We want to give you the information that we have. We want to stack it on. We want to make sure that you're a part of our communities, that you're lifted up, your families are lifted up, financially empowered, and just able to take this information, have a plan, and actually execute. That is the biggest thing. Knowledge is one thing, but being able to actually use the knowledge is another thing. So if you guys will grant me another 15 minutes, let me know in the chat. I will not be offended if anyone needs to jump off, but go ahead and put let's go 15 minutes, whatever you want in the chat to let me know. If you'll let me go ahead and just give you a little bit more information to walk away with. And while I'm looking to see what the chat says, I also want to share with you just a strategy, a quick strategy. Someone put in the chat, and I don't remember who it was, talked about, with the plan, if you had $100,000, what you would do with it. One of the comments was paying off debt. I'm just going to give you my personal philosophy on that. This is not financial advice. I'm not a registered financial investor. I should have did that in the beginning, my disclaimer, right? This is my personal advice from someone who's used money to make money to create wealth. Don't use your money to pay off old debt. Use your money to create more money. Use those profits to pay off old debt. Because that paying down that debt that's there, that's going to be there, was already there, is not going to create anything for you. But if you use that money to go make money, and it's out there, you send it out in the morning, send that $1 out, tell it to bring some friends back with it. You can take those friends and go pay off some of that debt. And if we are starting with our children when they're young and they're still at home, they're able to do this, they're blessed enough to be smart enough to be older than 18 and still at home, let them stay home and learn this mindset. Take that paycheck, make that paycheck go make money. Don't spend the paycheck on bills and stuff. Take the paycheck, use that income from the paycheck to go invest and make money, and then spend the profits. Don't spend any money until your paycheck has made some profits. If I had the ability or the knowledge to know that that was even an option growing up, it would have been a game changer for my life. And so now we know better, we could do better, and we can help more people. All right, so jumping into my 15 minutes whirlwind, and then like I promised, we have some giveaways. All right. Come on, act right screen. Okay, there we go. So the impact, action plan. What can you do from here? Here is one of the strategies that me and Tara talked about that she's used with her people. I talk to people about on social media. Just looking at things differently. Take that tax refund, the one that everybody goes and buys a new couch, another used car, pays off some debt. Let that stay there, right? You don't need the another used car. You don't need another couch. Definitely don't need another big screen TV. Instead, take that.
What, they want to fucking die? Can't drive right now. It ain't safe for you. Oh, no.
Okay. Instead, take that refund. Let's say if it was a $1,500 refund from overpaying on financial aid, if you're a student, or your tax refund, and instead of blowing it on a shopping spree, what if they bought $1,000 worth of Bitcoin during a dip and held it and cashed out 3,000 in 18 months? Would that make an impact? Would that make a difference in someone's life? Instead of having something that they say, what did I spend my return on in 2025? If we take this little tidbit of information for everyone that's still getting a tax return, that's still getting a student refund, if we take that one piece of information and strategy, can we help someone? Can we save someone's life from a life of debt and the mindset of hold on, I lost my chat. Okay, there we go. Let me see in the chat if you think that information can help someone change the way they look at money and their relationship with money, as Tara talked about. All right. Hold on, guys. I lost control of my screen. Okay. All right, next one. It's not about the amount, it's about the intentionality and timing. Even small, consistent plays can add up very fast. You do nothing, you will get nothing. All right. It's like with weight loss or anything else, or trying to get stronger. It's not boom, you do 50 push-ups today, you're going to be able to lift a car tomorrow. It's the intentionality, it's the timing, it's the fact that you're doing something and continue to do something, right? And so, what's one way you could free up $10 a week to invest in your future? Write that down for yourself. Write it in the chat, write it on your notes. What's one way? Because if you could do it for $10, you most likely can do it for $100. If you big balling out there, you might be able to do it for $1,000 a week that you got extra, that you were blowing. A lot of us eat out on a regular basis. I like stuff. I really like stuff. And I was disciplined this week. The only extra stuff I didn't get was some new perfume. We went to the store and I was like, no, I don't even have space to put on the shelf for a new perfume. So taking that perfume money and went and got some crypto was a much better decision, right? So that's an impact when these small mindset shifts can make a big difference. So let's talk about numbers. Here's a portfolio example. A conservative starter plan. Again, we want you to walk away with actionable steps. Let's say whatever portfolio amount you started with, $5, $50, $100. It started with 60% of that going into Bitcoin. Remember the grandfather. Absolutely. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. 20% of that portfolio, whether it's $5 or $100, $50, going into Ethereum or another altcoin that has utility. When you come to the class, you'll learn about what utility means versus memes. I don't advocate for memes. They are things like Dogecoin and other coins that are just for popularity, or the Trump coin or Melania coin that you get it because it's popular and it's hot, and then it's not popular or hot anymore, and there's no basis for your value. Your money's just gone. All right. And then the balance of 10% into stable coins. And then, yes, 10% into learning. Whatever tools, classes, anything that's out there that can continue to make you better, sharper, faster, throw that 10% on there and use it to continue to learn. Trust me, it pays dividends when you are out here and continuing to learn. So on a $500 portfolio over 2 years, these are very, very, very hypothetical numbers. If Bitcoin grew at 100% and Ethereum grew at 150%, and stable coins, remember, they're the same value of $1. So they don't grow, but they're just there. If you need to move money quickly, there's strategies for having stable coins as a part of your portfolio. And you'll learn that in the course. Your return on that $500 could be anywhere from $950 to $1,100. Now, that same $500 that could have been blown on a movie night out, if you go to the movie theater where you sit back in the chair and the legs go up and they serve you some food, the food, popcorn, all that, you're looking at about $200 with 2 people if you add drinks to it. Then afterwards, if you decided to go out to a club and you get bottle service, that's another $200 just to be at the table and have them bring you a bottle. Date nights, super, super picture worthy on social media, but it didn't do anything for you. When you start thinking about the Ubers that you had $40 there, $40 back, the Uber in between might have been $20. You're easily at $500 for a date night. And instead, taking that one date night or that one thing that you were going to get $500 worth of shopping on some stuff that you already got in your closet that you forgot. and turning that around and getting over $1,000 or close to $1,000 in profit on it is a difference that you can make, a difference that you can teach to anyone. All right. So Tara talked about risk management. So let's see, my chat. One of my other strategies for risk management, and I use this forever, even back in my investment banking days when we had to, because we owned our own company, we had to invest our own money, was dollar cost averaging. That's investing the same amount on a regular basis, regardless of the price of that asset. Like Kathy said, pay yourself first. So when we got our paychecks, it was anywhere from 10 to 20%. It wasn't paychecks. When we got paid from our clients, we put anywhere from 10 to 20% aside. And that went into our investment portfolio. And we would spread it out into different vehicles. You can do the same thing with your investment portfolio with Tara, and then your crypto portfolio, whether it's 10% per paycheck, 10% per bonus, whatever it is. So that way you're not moving forward based on, oh, the news said this cryptocurrency is going up. Well, if you go after the news cycle, you've already missed the climb. If you wait until the news cycle says, oh, this is crashed, it's already crashed. So being able to do dollar cost averaging, you're getting in the market at different times, different prices, and you're not making emotional decisions. So using a stop loss or a cash out target, again, different strategies that can be taught are ways to manage your risk, manage your portfolio. Reinvesting your profits or withdraw original capital once it doubles. That is another strategy to say, okay, I'm going to put $500 into this asset. Once it doubles, I will take, instead of it just being $1,000 sitting there, I will take my original $500 out and start investing it into other things so I can start to grow my portfolio. All right. So risk is real, but so is reward when you move with a strategy. And that's what we're talking about, making sure that you have a strategy, making sure that you have skills, making sure that you have the knowledge to be able to move. And then knowing that you have people, we are your people. You got people now that are going to be here for you to answer questions, to support you through this process. Now that we've seen what's possible, let me help you do it the right way, guys. You can join again the Blockchain Queens Basics course. It's perfect for beginners. And Latoya, if you could please drop the link again. It's perfect for beginners. It's self-paced videos. There's 5 chapters. You just go through at your own pace. We've had some people that whip through it in a day. And I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. Okay, let's schedule your one-on-one, because you get step-by-step assistance in the training now to set up your wallet. But you also get a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with me that is fire for the price, because it's only $70 for the course. But guys, I usually charge $100 for my time just to get on a Zoom with me to look at someone's crypto wallet. And it doesn't matter if I can figure out the solution in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That was my retainer to get me on a call. So for $70, you get a 5-chapter course with all of my knowledge from 17 years as an investment banker plus 8 years in the crypto space and a 30-minute consultation. It's, I think, the best value. My husband's always like, oh, you're underselling yourself. And I'm like, no, I want people not to have to make a buying decision when looking at $70. That is the cost to take your kids to the movies. Take your kids to the Blockchain Queens Bitcoin Basics course. That's where you're going to take them this weekend. All right. That popcorn and them candies that they want. So today, the first 5 people that sign up are also, I will see the emails come through and I'll know, because we have the registration links. They're also going to get a surprise crypto starter gift with their purchase. So I'm looking forward to see who gets that. And guys, it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. And I'm missing a T, excuse me. It's about the time in the market. Don't worry and sit back and overanalyze. Overanalyzing until you're paralyzed and then don't know how to start, how to move forward. Remember, I said start with $5. Analyze that. Look at that. Be excited. Now you got at least $5 in the market and you're able to move forward. The first step in financial freedom is making a decision to start. We are here because we care about you. We care about our community. We want to give you the knowledge, the power, the strength to go ahead and get started. Guys, it's your time. I don't need you to be rich to start. You don't need to be rich to start with Bitcoin. You just need to start to become rich in knowledge. And so we want you to have this information. Again, we thank you so much for joining us. And as promised, we got some goodies to give away. All right, let me see. This is my love language. I love gifts. I love giving gifts. All right. Tara, you want to join us again and tell us what the first goodie is going to be? Cannot get my screen. Hold on, guys. All right, here we go. All right. So she may have stepped away from her mic. The first gift that she is giving is a gift card. Tomorrow, coffee is on her. So we have the names of everyone that pre-registered before last night at 10 o'clock, I think it was. And Tiana, are you here to grab the name? If not, I'll make sure that they get it in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel. All right, Melissa pre-registered. Is Melissa here? Let me see. No Melissa here? Okay, so we are going to spin the wheel again. And Joseph, we got you covered too. Joseph is in Kuwait, so if he wins, we'll have to find out something else that we can treat him with. Joining us all the way from Kuwait. All right, Cameron, did Cameron come? I know that's one of Latoya's contacts. Is he here on the call?
He was on his way to work, so he has jumped off.
Okay, but he was here? All
Yeah, he
right.
was on.
All right, awesome. So Cameron is the winner chicken dinner. Love it. Okay, and the second prize is coming, or she had two of them. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel again. Can you check the chat and see if Storio is here today? Nope. All right, moving on. Hey, Sean, getting some coffee. We will make sure that Tara gets both of your names, and then I have a gift as well that I'm giving away. Let's go. Okay, Jenny, is Jenny here? Latoya, can you tell me? Okay, no.
No, I don't see that name.
All right. A
I
lot of
didn't
people
see
getting their
Sean either, though.
If there is someone on here whose name is Janie but doesn't have their name, please let us know. Please unmute. Okay, moving on. Oops, I removed her by accident. Did Latoya P join us? Oh, we had so many people
I don't
register.
see another. I didn't know there was another Latoya.
Yeah. Okay. No, she's not here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove her so that we don't end up getting her in the spin again. I'm trying to give something away to somebody who's here. Okay. Audis.
Yes, I'm here.
Yay! Congratulations. All right, let
Thank
me
you.
see you. Okay, can you, where are you at, hon? I don't see you in the chat. Let me see. Okay.
She's not, her camera isn't on, but she's the one with the beautiful black image.
Okay, there you go. Okay, can you put your email address just so I'll have it again? My dear, you have won free access to the Blockchain Queens Inner Circle for a year. Yes, you're going to get to come to my classes every Tuesday for free for a year and learn until your heart is content. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yes, congratulations to all the winners. I am so excited for you guys. Again, thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap up with one more exercise. This one I love. So we talked about having that. Let me stop sharing. We talked about having that $100,000 that you were able to invest and what you were going to do with it. Let's say things went smashingly well and you were able to take that 100,000 and now grow it to the point where now you have over $1 million. And now let's look at that $1 million and tell me how you will spend that $1 million. You cannot invest it. You have 24 hours to spend it. Tell me in the chat how you will spend that $1 million. It cannot be an investment, has to be on something for you, your family, something you love. But tell me how you're spending that $1 million. Because for you to even attract the right type of investments, the right type of information, to have that type of nest egg and security, you have to have the mindset that it's yours and you're able to attract it. So mindset's everything. Tell me how you're going to spend that $1 million once you get it. I love seeing some of the information that comes through. Okay, I need to know what that dream car is, Kathy, for $1 million. Is it one car? All right, we got some good stuff coming through. I would buy a large plot of land and help empower some people who have not had the chance to be homeowners. I love it. So you would buy just land and build homes for people. I'm buying a beach house in Cape Town, South Africa, and the land and property is to farm on. Yes. My husband mad about these chickens I'm about to get. I'm getting these chickens. Okay. And I'm having my raised bed garden. It's all about to go down as soon as I be unafraid of bugs and not allergic to everything. But it's going down. It's going down. He keeps clowning me about it. All right, purchase a house in Cali, purchase property in Belize. Went fast. Build a house on my family's farm. I love it. Yes, Latoya. Okay, and then she said in Georgia. Okay, your family's farm in Georgia. I love it. Not multiple cars, just one. And I'm not that expensive, but I love the Range Rover. Second investment, a home in Ghana. So remember, not investment. This is your personal residence that you are just going to live in. So I love it. I love, love, love the plan. I love seeing how this money is being spent. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy. Make sure you tell your friends, your family, the people you care about, the Tara's out there, that you email her today to make sure that you're able to get that consultation. And I think the email was Tara at Colston Williams. hold on. Let me go back and find it, just to copy it. And she had a client come in, so I remember that. Let me go back and find her email to make sure. Okay, info@Colson Williams. I'm usually texting her, emailing her personally. Let me copy this. Email her today, put finances of the future so that you make sure you get your free consultation plus 50% off services for the first year. Insane to get that type of offer. That is an unprecedented offer. I've never had a financial investor or advisor offer me any type of discount. So I just love that she did that. Yes, my absolute pleasure. And in the email, finances of the future. Yes. All right, awesome. And then Dr. Rux and Cameron will be getting the gifts from Tara, their gift cards, and artists, I will be sending you the access to the inner circle. You guys have a wonderful and blessed Saturday. Thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. We have enjoyed being here, and you guys have an amazing, amazing day.